Stop scrolling for a minute. What if I told you you've been calling on God but by who he revealed himself to be? Many believers say God, but don't understand his names. And because of that for a minute, what if I told you? Stop scrolling for a minute. What if I told you you've been calling on God but not calling him by who he revealed himself to be? Many believers say God, but don't understand his names. And because of that, you need provision but don't call him Jireh. You need peace but don't call him Shalom. You need healing but don't call him Rafeka. So you're praying but not targeting. You're speaking but not activating revelation. God reveals himself through his names. Not for decoration, but for demonstration. Every name carries a nature, a function, a covenant. When you say, Jehovah Jireh, you're invoking provision. Jehovah Shalom, you're invoking peace. Jehovah Rapha Rafeka, you're invoking healing. Jehovah Nisi, you're invoking victory. You're not just calling him men, you're calling what he does. Here is the hard truth. You cannot walk in what you don't recognize. And many people are. Begging for what God already revealed. Crying for what his name already covers. Fighting battles without using the authority in his identity. Because if you don't know him as Jireh, you will struggle like he doesn't provide. If you don't know him as Shalom, you will live like peace is unavailable. Start praying with precision. Stop general prayers, be intentional. Jehovah Jireh, you are my provider. Step into this situation. Jehovah Shalom, silence every storm in my mind. Call him by name. Call him by function. Call him by revelation. Because when you know his name, you unlock his nature. You're not just talking to God. You are calling on Jehovah, the one who provides, heals, covers, fights, restores, is present. So stop praying vague prayers and start calling on the name that answers the situation. Because everything you need is already in his name. But let's bring balance to this. Because here's where many teachings become inaccurate. Not everything labeled as a name is a formal biblical name. Hebrew expressions and transliterations, and that matters because we don't want to turn revelation into a formula. We tend to mix categories without understanding. Some are titles, Adonai, Elyon. Some are descriptive revelations, Jireh Shalom. Some are language expressions carried through Hebrew. And then we package it as one list, one system, one formula. But God was never meant to be reduced to a chart, a checklist, a spiritual shortcut. God did not reveal his name so you could memorize a list, recite them like incantations, use them to force outcomes. He revealed himself so you could know him deeper, trust him fully, recognize how he moves, because every name is not just something to say. It is something to understand. Here is the hard truth. You can know every name and still not know God. You can quote Jireh Shalom Rapha and still live in lack, in anxiety, in brokenness. Why? Because you learned the name but never entered the relationship. Because even beyond names, God reveals himself through attributes. Not just what he is called, but who he is consistently. He is. Redeemer, he brings you back from what tried to own you. Shepherd, he leads, feeds, and corrects. The king rules with authority, not suggestion. The judge brings righteous decisions. King, he becomes your protection. Deliverer, he pulls you out of wicked escape. King, he rules with authority, not suggestion. Deliverer, he pulls you out of what you couldn't escape. So now you're not just calling names, you're recognizing how he moves in your life. Stop trying to collect names and start encountering God. Where is he trying to establish peace that I keep resisting? Yes, call him Rapha. But recognize healing may come through process, not just a moment. This is where prayer shifts from repetition. 2, revelation-driven alignment. That image is a teaching tool, a partial list, a starting point, not a complete revelation, because God is not limited to names on a chart. He is revealed in relationship. So stop trying to master the names and start pursuing the God behind the name. Because when you know him, you won't have to force anything. You'll recognize him moving.